Hallelujah. That's right. The Messiah is coming to Cookeville, Tennessee this weekend at 3 p.m. MasterSingersInc.com. Sorry, had to get that one out there. My choir is singing, and I was singing Messiah songs last night until really late. And then I realized I get to have coffee with my favorite people. So we're on today with Jack Spirko of the Survival Podcast, John Willis of Special Operations Equipment. I'm Nicole Sauce from Living Free in Tennessee. And we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about today, guys? Like whatever the hell we want to?
I think so.
That sounds like a great idea. Just a reminder, we will never contact you for any personal information on private chat or try to sell you Bitcoins for cheaper than Bitcoins cost or any other nonsense. But there are very, very clever little trolls trying to pretend to be us by stealing our images and pretending to be us on the side. Don't fall for it. You'll lose your money. You don't want to lose your money. One of the foundations of being prepared is getting your finances out of control, not out of control, into control. And you don't want to fall for scams because that does not help you move towards that goal. And if you have questions or things you want to hear us talk about, just put it up there in all caps. Let's start with what exciting new things have happened to you, Jack, since last November. First week of November, you were like, we're getting ready for the fall workshop. And then I'm cruising into Christmas. How's that going for you, Jack?
It's not so much a cruise this time. It's more like a bumpy ride. And it revolves really around two computers deciding to commit suicide about a week apart from each other. And so I had a MacBook, as you know, because you were here.
I was there.
Missed your video of Jack Rage trying to order a new MacBook. The rage wasn't over the dead MacBook. I want to be clear. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to buy it. I was trying to give Best Buy money. It was very frustrating. They hate money. They didn't want my money. I made them take it. And a week later, my desktop that I do all my editing and everything on, the display capability of it died. It went to the computer doctor who did no doctoring whatsoever and lied to me. Held on to it for about a week before they said we can't fix it. And I can tell you for a fact they never even opened it up or looked at it. So then I ordered a brand new computer. It showed up DOA.
Yep.
Then I had to return it and get another new computer with the same computer. This one actually worked. And I am now back in full operational mode. That's just
almost
the challenges.
Almost the exact same story about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I think there's a theory that like things all go to shit at the same time. And I had a dude on, I can't think of his name now, but he was the guy that does a Strong Towns podcast. And he was talking about it affecting entire neighborhoods. And so the reason you see like this complete decay of a neighborhood is because all the houses are built about the same time. They're all built with the same shitty material. We don't use big oak beams and shit anymore. They all use cheap ass asphalt shingles, etc. Even the expensive houses, right? So everybody's roof will need to be replaced within a few years of each other in that whole neighborhood. Everybody's siding will need to be replaced a few years from each other in that one. Like all of it will start to fall the fuck apart at the same time. And then if you take these places like Portland and Seattle and all where they ban people from like subletting, so that what people would do, they would, bring somebody in, run them a room, then they could afford to fix the roof. But nobody can do that anymore. So that's why you have like these neighborhoods just completely fall apart at the same time. I had never heard anybody say that before, but
plus you have people overextended that it's coming due, right? The constriction. Same with vehicles. Look at all these trucks out here with bald ass tires right now when you're in a parking lot someplace.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true. That's why I have a mason jar that says tires in my kitchen.
A tire jar?
It's a tire jar because I'm going to need tires sometime in the next year. And I figured out if every time somebody pays me cash, I put it in that jar till I have enough money for tires, then when tire bill comes due, I'm not having to tap into other resources for it.
Yeah.
Do you remember as a kid, you just have old sets of tires your friends would take off or whatever, and you just leave them sit? And you're like, one day I'll put these tires on this thing. and sometimes you would. And they'd be bumpy and stuff. But now you set tires for 2 or 3 years and they develop cracks in them. Like I swear that it's planned, but tires used to last so much. I used to put a set of BFGs on and get 50,000 miles out of those things. I mean, we'd run them dead.
Yeah.
But now you leave them sit, man, and 2 years later they're flat because the sidewalls have cracked out of them.
I know shit about tires that I have no business knowing as far as the change in the structure of tire over time. My dad, his business when I was a kid, I mean a little kid, he ran a used tire shop. And the tires, like in the 70s and early 80s, they had so much rubber on them that he would get these tires that were damn near bald. And he had a tool called a grooving iron. And he would actually cut new tread into the tire, and it would look brand new. And he painted them with, like, legitimately, there's a thing called tire paint, and clean them up. And he would sell those tires, and he wasn't screwing anybody over. And it was about the mid 80s when you would go just to barely touch it with a grooving iron, you'd be down to threads. And so just the thickness of the rubber on the tire between the mid 70s and mid 80s got cut in half. God knows what's happened since 1985.
Same things happened to mason jar lids, where that rubber around the lid has gotten thinner and thinner and thinner. And now I'm starting to have lid failures. Although Layman's appears to have sourced a new brand that's US based. It has blue rubber. I'm going to test some of those and see if they're better. I think they claim to be thicker. So I'll totally check that out.
So I bought these ball jar, mason jar, green jar mouse traps. And I bought them at a flea market as antique. And these two, I believe, were, because they were actually rusted up. So I found them on Amazon, same thing, right? When they show up, I bought a box. I think I bought a box of 24 of them. They show up, and even though they say ball, it says Pakistan on the bottom.
Yeah.
It's just made to look antique. They're not anything ball. They just counterfeited these things. And the import mousetrap, the fake one, they don't catch mice. There's something, the way the mechanism is, the mice can get back out.
That's their plan.
The antique ones,
shitty traps and get us overrun by mice to starve.
Yeah, the antique ones, if I put a couple pieces of dog food, every morning there's 3 to 5 mice in that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
K-Bonk's asking what happened to retreads. I also know the answer to that. They failed because you can't vulcanize rubber back together. So the retreads, like Robert's Recaps was the biggest company in the country. And what they would do is they would replace the belt of the tire, the part you drive on, because the sidewalls last, well, especially back then, forever, right? So what they would do is basically prep the tire and rubber weld a new belt on the outside of the tire. Well, when you used to drive around back then, you would see like giant strips of tire in the middle of the highway where the whole belt would just come off and throw it off to the side and like rip people's quarter panels apart and shit. So that wasn't a conspiracy. It just didn't work.
So we still see that. So are those retreads, or is that something else that we currently see today?
Semi tires will do that for a totally different reason. Back then I'm talking like you'd see a guy in a Yugo and all of a sudden just tire flies off the side.
Oh, yeah.
Are modern day tires still use vulcanization?
Not the way I'm talking about. I really don't know if they do at all, but I know that not where you take a piece of an existing structure and attach it instead of building it out of a single form. That's how they make tires today, as far as I know.
And that's what vulcanization is?
Well, I don't know if
okay,
you call that vulcanization or not, right? But when you take and you put it, that is an attempt to vulcanize. And I don't know if it's one to the other or is it one to the other? It makes it vulcanizing. But when you do that, they didn't ever perfect it and it didn't work.
Because I know they've closed a lot of huge vulcanization plants here in Tennessee.
Interesting. I just want to point out something completely off topic here from Tim Heiler. I've never heard a man say this before. He likes doing it. You know what he likes doing?
No.
Drywall. So Tim, there's a lot of people in Tennessee who look for somebody just like you who like to do drywall, because a lot of people hate drywall. I've never heard a man say that before. I've heard them say I'm really good at it, but not I like doing it.
No.
I always operate under the assumption that we're going to leak at some point. So when we built this building out, we did it all with plywood so that we could unfit it and just put a piece in, or if we needed access. So when we built this building out, there's no drywall in here anywhere.
I just like the look of drywall.
It actually costs a lot less to do drywall than to put plywood in.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Especially now. Good Lord, nobody really likes it, do they? Somebody does. It's proof that there is somebody for every job.
It's funny how these comments would read if we didn't know what we were talking about.
Right.
I like doing it. Good Lord,
especially when
one
she
really
said a
likes
guy.
it,
Yeah.
do they? Guess what it is?
That is true.
All kinds of crap that could get stuck in there that would be bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so you guys want to talk about current events at all? Do we want to go there?
You're in charge.
I'm in charge. So okay. Well, I mean, we were kind of talking about it before, but what about this whole electrical substation shoot 'em up situation?
Well, it's a white Christian anti-gay group. That's how the media is currently spinning it.
Every time there are guns, that's true, right?
3 substation. Yeah. Well, I mean, it starts that way, but then, try to find something on the Walmart shooting that just happened, or the nightclub shooting, or any of that. It's all been memory holes.
Yeah.
So 3 substations they rammed through with vehicles, apparently multiple, dozens and dozens of bullet holes in infrastructure, has wiped the power out. Pat Mack, a friend of mine, actually lost power at his place. We know a few other people that were affected by it. Not martial law, but curfew, 9 o'clock. And now the real question is, like, I would be concerned about this if it was happening in other states. So and I would think that would happen simultaneously in other states if that's how that was going to go. But that's what's out there right now.
I find it interesting that this summer, John Willis asks me questions from time to time, just in passing, and I'm over at Special Operations Equipment. He's like, "Hey, Nicole, what are you going to do if the power grid goes down for a long time? Are you prepared for that?" And you were talking about some generators with me, and it's almost like you knew some of this was going to start coming.
I just read, I listen. I have a lot of shit in my ears, right? I've really spent the last month just working on me, and that means not this, right? So I'm just me in my head. But a lot of times I listen to prepper fiction, and a lot of the prepper fiction that I've heard lately was, the grid gets attacked from people who have been in the United States for over a decade. Some of them have become citizens, some have not. So it would be very easy to do. I heard 6 months ago they stopped thousands of Russians coming through the U.S.-Mexico border. Like, who are those guys? And then all the Chinese that are here. We have whole cities in the United States that are Chinese sovereign territory. There's square mileage in Idaho that is all Chinese, ruled by Chinese. They use Uyghur Muslim slave labor, and that's where all of your fast food uniforms come from. What if those people, we don't know what's going on inside that area. The Chinese, we just sold one of the largest runways in the United States in Texas, and I believe the CCP or somebody directly related to the CCP bought that. The Beach Naval Shipyard, owned by China. So it's not unfathomable that we have all these people here. Well, we know we have them here. It's just intent. What is the intent? So that's what has usually the catalyst to those conversations, Nicole, or that we just went through and started a bunch of our generators and 2 of them didn't start. And then the solar generator thing, I've been doing some solar generator stuff, and we brought in solar panels and other things. So that's just what's in my head. So in passing, that gets tossed out there.
Just like a random thing, and then there's the attack. I don't know if it's just my brain connects those conversations because I remember, because I was actually, as I'm watching the comments of people, I'm reminded, somebody said they bury it when it's not fitting the narrative, which they do. What is always surprising to me about that is, I guess I'm just an optimist. Is like, people freaking forget this stuff, and I don't forget it. So I'm like, how do you forget that? Like, forget that XYZ happened. They said S, and A is really what happened. And when that comes out, it's like the whole story disappears.
Yeah.
And then nobody remembers that it ever happened. And I'm like, well, are you that dumb? Like, is your memory that bad?
Well, we're seeing a lot of evidence right now with Twitter stuff. I mean, just over the last couple of days.
Yeah. I guess that's true. Yeah, the stuff coming out about Twitter is really interesting. And people are losing their minds as usual. I love watching people lose their minds over the blue check.
That was great.
They will pay a subscription fee to Netflix to get their video, but they will not pay $8 a month as a subscription fee to Twitter.
Well, they paid $15,000 for it, and now they won't pay $8. Yeah. It's not about them having it; they're mad that you have it.
You can have it too. They most of them, like John said, they have 15 to 25 grand in the PR to get that blue check put on their little status symbol so they can have their blue check and their gray coupon, right? Where the whole point of it was to just verify that you were authentic and real and actually who you said you were. And if you're a peon like us, we're not, we're important enough that the people that follow us can be scammed by people pretending to be us. But we're not important enough to
get a blue check.
Because, well, you can apply for a blue check and it tells you what you have to have as far as public recognizability to be a blue check. And I have every one of those. And I sent, news articles, everything they asked for. You get nothing back. If you have a Madison Avenue PR firm, or if, if J-Lo can make a phone call for you or whatever, then you can get your blue check.
Yeah, you have to make it through the PR company. It's just like on YouTube. When you attain a certain level, you have a guy that you have access to. Yeah. Just like on PayPal, we have an account rep that we can get a hold of 24 hours a day.
Same. Yep. Once you do a certain amount of volume, then, hey, you get different people to take care of you.
Yep. Well, that's always been that way, though. They want to keep you happy, sort of. Well, YouTube does not want to keep Jack happy, but, other platforms do.
Well, the grid down thing, I think one of the things people like, I got a generator and whatever. If you've never had to run your house on your generators for any significant amount of time, you may be vastly underestimating the amount of fuel reserve you need.
Yeah.
And then I worry about, there are people that like, well, I got a Generac and I'm hooked up to a natural gas pipeline. Well, most of the time, that's a great plan. And you have virtually unlimited energy. As long as you can afford the gas will come. But when you start knocking down the grid and shit, don't think that there's no dependence whatsoever on electrical components working for that gas to come to your house reliably.
Yeah, that's totally true. Like, they can't process your payment without power and internet, and they can't get the gas out of the ground. It's not like they have one of those old-fashioned water pumps to get your gas, right? It's not like you're going to like siphon it out of the ground. It's not happening. I mean, I guess if it was gone long enough, we'd start figuring that fuck out. But
now, to be fair, I've never seen the power go off and the natural gas go off at the same time yet, other than 2 winters ago here. But that was supposedly with components of the gas system freezing up. Because the gas itself, people said the gas frozen. This is not the dark side of Jupiter, right? Like, you do not get cold enough here for natural gas to freeze. But apparently fittings, pieces, parts of the system itself can freeze up, and that's what happened.
Well, everything's automated now. There's not a valve where Ted can go out there and open or close this. They said that in North Carolina yesterday, day before, the pumps for sewage were not running. So the sewage is actually backing up and coming out in the street, and they're having accidents due to sewage on the roads right now. So I saw something the other day. Somebody was talking about when the power's out. Well, it only takes a gallon to flush your toilet. Well, that's great. Depending where you are, that actually might come back inside your house. Like they just don't, like in New York, power went out 2-3 years ago, and the pumps weren't working during a storm, and they had the whole first floor is actually underground level, and a bunch of people drowned in their apartments. Like they don't plan for that.
Yeah. The other thing about that is that may not be yours, just to make it a little gross. Or like the guy that lives up on the hill, he can still flush, but you're down in a low spot and there's no pumps to move sewage out. So you have all your higher territory houses literally flushing into your lower territory houses. So that's definitely something to ponder with power outages. And where most people who listen to us probably do live still in suburbs and what have you. And that's where you're going to have that issue. Here, it doesn't matter. I got a septic tank.
Yeah, same.
It's got to be full before I care.
I have outhouses with buckets too. So if the septic tank fails, there's always a way to figure out how to deal with your waste.
Dirty water pump, and I'll pump my own shit down into the woods. I don't want to. I wouldn't do that on a normal basis, but I have enough power to run that thing long enough to move the 500 gallons out of each side of my septic. So
if things are that bad and you can't get that repaired, there are 2 people in your house. It's not like you're producing a ton. Yeah. That's the other thing people don't think about. Like some of these scenarios, for it to get that bad forever or for a very long time, something has probably changed with population as well. There's just, and then when there's less population, the environmental impact of some of our waste problems are much lighter.
Is that the plan?
That's the plan.
Are we the carbon?
You are the carbon they're trying to reduce.
Or trying to reduce us. That's another interesting thing is that all of the discussion lately about birth rates and fertility rates, etc.
It's a crisis, Jack.
Yeah, it is. Dudes aren't making babies because, one, they're scared to make babies because the system fucks them over when they make babies.
Mm-hmm.
That is a thing. But the other side of it is dudes aren't making babies because apparently they're shooting blanks. And
yeah.
Is John locked up there, or is he just really amused? I think
he's locked up.
He's locked
up. He'll be back when he comes back.
He'll be back when he comes back.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. So the thing is, all of the discussion on this has been about male fertility, as though there's no problem with female fertility, which I can tell you for a fact is bull.
Oh, that's yeah.
I would suggest that almost everybody knows somebody who is a couple that's trying to get pregnant that can't.
Yeah.
And you know, and of that group, you'll know some that it is the female that is the reason they can't get pregnant. Where it seems like, I don't know, back when we were kids, like if you climbed in the back seat with a girl, you ended up with a pregnancy. Like people were getting pregnant left and right everywhere. And the idea that people try to get pregnant and can't now, that's always been with us. There's always been some, you know, people that have low sperm counts or women that have fertility issues, but the numbers on that are huge. And I liken it to how many corporations will downsize. If they're a big corporation with a lot of people that are older and near retirement, instead of having to deal with people getting fired and severance and all, they just let people retire and or leave and they don't replace them.
Yeah.
It's a much cleaner way to clean out society. So if you cut birth rates dramatically around the world, you'll cut the population in about 40 years, you'll cut it significantly.
Well, the other way we've cut birth rates in our country is we have changed what is normal as far as getting married and having children from younger age to do your career first and then try to get pregnant. And statistically, it's just harder as you get older.
It's totally screwing women too, man, because good dudes get married young.
Yeah.
We do. I mean, that's reality. Dudes that want to have a family and kids, they get married in their 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
You know, and they generally marry younger. Not everybody does, but in general, the aggregate averages, men tend to marry women that are a few.
Yeah, every so often there's a 60-year-old dude who suddenly decides he wants to have a family, but he's targeting younger women at that point.
Yeah. Well, he's targeting women that can have babies.
Yeah.
He's a 30-year-old
family, right?
Yeah.
So you tell this young woman, hey, you go out and build your career first. Next thing you know, she's 36 years old.
Yeah.
Biological clock's ticking, and all the dudes around her are 36-year-old dudes that still play Fortnite.
And a lot of that's by design, right? Because if you tell her that, who's babysitting the kids, right? While she has that career. Well, now you no longer have either spouse at home, so we send those kids to government school.
And mom and dad are 1,000 miles away or in a home or something, so you don't have that strong extended family.
Break the nuclear family. Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, we destroy that. We go to more of a corporate family design, if there's even that. And so then the next thing you know, you'll see. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the documentary. There's a documentary called Demographic Bomb, and it's not new. It's been around a long time, and it is what are the consequences of a drastic reduction in population? Because of course, 70s and 80s and 90s, everybody was shrieking, the population is going to be 900 gazillion, and we're going to eat everything on the planet or whatever, you know, and there won't be anything left for anybody. And when you build a society based on social safety nets, which means the young working people pay for the old people and the hurt people, and your population goes into decline, eventually you end up with more old people than young people before that group of old people checks out, and you have total economic calamity. And you know, we're all the same age, guys. Don't count on a dime from your SSI.
And a lot of it's like microplastics. They say that every U.S. citizen has a credit card's worth of plastic, right? So remember all those times when you were younger and you were microwaving all your food in Tupperware? That came from that. It came from packaging. The receipts that you get at Walmart, those have plastics that they say can pass through your body. All kinds of shit. You know, all those Tupperware parties, when you're growing up, all that Tupperware shit, there you go. I mean, it's everywhere, constant.
Yeah.
I also wonder, like, we did stupid shit where, because I'm sure you did this, John. We would go, fishing or camping or whatever, and you opened up that can of beans and you just stuck the can with a pair of pliers in the fire.
Yeah.
Like, you look at that can now and you realize there's some kind of a liner on that metal.
It's plastic.
It's plastic.
Yeah, there is a liner.
How much freaking pork and beans plastic I ate when I was 12.
Yeah, we drank water right out of the ponds. I mean, even now they have these water. They have these potable water safe hoses. We still on the property drink water out of whatever hose is running.
That doesn't have any plastic at all because those are rubber hoses, right?
Not anymore. I don't think they are.
Yeah.
Having drunk out of one of John Willis's hoses, I can tell you that it tastes really bad like hose.
Like hose.
Hose, yes. I was going to make coffee from hose water, and I was like, nope, we're going to run to the kitchen and get that out of the other plumbing because that's going to make the coffee taste like rubber hose. Blah.
Rubber hose coffee.
It's rubber hose blend.
Rubber hose water only tastes like rubber hose until you flush the hose out and you get new water. And as it passes through, there's only a mild background taste of hose.
The background taste. It's just hints of hose instead of like the up front
hose.
Smack you across the face hose.
Hints of hose.
That's right. Take that one out of context, you two.
With gentle hints of hose and boot, which John will have no idea what we're talking about.
Boot is, surprisingly tasty.
Yeah. We made boot rye bourbon, boot rye whiskey, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where there was no boot involved.
There was no boot involved.
Got it.
Well, we found this vodka that Nick Ferguson turned us on to called Sobieski, and it's 100% made from rye. So I'm sitting there looking at this handle of Sobieski and going, wonder what happens if you pour it over one of those oak spirals. So we did, but we think we left it a little longer than we should have. And it doesn't taste bad, but when you smell it, those cheap rubber boots, like mud boots you buy like at Tractor Supply or whatever, and they have that smell. It smells like that.
Yeah.
But like, because it's a hint of. It's
a hint of boot.
Yeah.
It's not up front. It doesn't smack you across the face.
We'll see what it smells like next year. We just let it sit in the bottle for a year.
Yeah, just let it age.
Yeah. It doesn't age that way, but we'll see if the boot fades.
Yes. Okay, I've got one. What do you use as a backup for a well with an electric pump? Thoughts on a simple pump? Who wants to take that one?
I use a bypass switch and a generator that I plug into my house that runs the well pump. That's what I do.
Okay. John, do you have a backup? Do you have a need for this at all?
I've got 10,000 gallons of water sitting in tanks. I've got millions in a pond back here. I've got hundreds of thousands in a pond up here.
He's got employees with buckets.
Yeah, we've got 5-gallon buckets. We've got 4-wheelers. We've got smaller size tanks on wheels. I've got a 3-inch trash pump. I've got a 2-inch high volume pump. It's not ever been a problem.
I have a lovely Honda generator that I can take down the hill because it's portable and turn it on and it pumps the water up the hill. And I have 2 backup pumps that can be replaced if my pumps go out. And if that fails, I could take a bucket and reach into my spring because it's a spring that comes to the surface and do that. But it'd be a heck of a lot easier rather than climb down that hole to go to the creek and just get creek water at that point.
I also have 3,000 gallons of rain catch, and I have it's plugged into the grid, but it's a 12-volt pump with an AC adapter to plug in. So you could take the adapter off and hook up a freaking car battery to it.
Yeah.
And I can move water out of that system into my house. And I figured out, it was one of those things, like stuff goes wrong and then you figure shit out.
Yeah.
That when my well was down, that wasn't a power problem, it was a well problem, that I could just basically shut the water off from the main from the well until they fixed it into the house, into the property. And then I just ran a hose from my shop building to my hose bib on the side of the house. And it's an on-demand pump. So it's only pumping when there's not pressure, back pressure. And then you could turn the sink on and water would come out of the sink from the rain catch tank.
Yep.
And it was really, and I was like, I should bury pipe. And I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm not going to use it that often. I'll just run some hoses whenever I need to do it. So like, I don't know, sit around and think, I don't have any water. How would I get water? Because like John said, the tanks on wheels, that's a great idea. In the Army, we had a thing called a water buffalo, which was about a 300-gallon water tank trailer. And I don't know that I would go buying one of those surplus, because God help you if you have to back a 5-ton up with one of those fucking things behind it because you can't see the damn thing. But like just a small poly tank trailer, 100 gallons of water, being able to move 100 gallons of water is pretty handy. That's what, 880 pounds. So think about what you're moving it with.
Tractor Supply's got them.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Tractor Supply has them.
Yeah.
And on any kind of trailer you're carrying liquid on, it is always best to fill it. Right?
Why, Jack?
A full trailer of water sloshes. It's much more difficult to manage than a full tank, right? So buy the tank of the size that you want to move full.
Yep. And I just got an IBC tote installed above my house because I live on a hill.
Yeah.
And I have not pulled the switch to pump the water to that and then have it go to my house yet, just because I have a situation down the hill with some sediment in the system. I don't want to pump up there. But once that happens, I'm going to have hints for about a month, probably, maybe less. I'm going to have hints of moonshine cherries because that's what was in there when we get the water into the house. So, but then gravity gets water to the house, whatever water's in that tank. So
gotcha.
It's like a double bonus system.
A double bonus system.
So do we drink well water from the hose filter with Berkey or tap water with fluoride? Our outside faucets are well water, inside is tap.
Preferably run them through something.
What?
Preferably run them through something.
Yeah, either or. But I would rather drink well water than I would grid water if I had the choice. In most instances, like I think if you have a well, you should totally have your water tested.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember what it is. There's some bacteria or whatever that routinely get into our well in Pennsylvania. It was a relatively shallow well. It wasn't down below rock. So water could infiltrate from the surrounding areas down into the water table quite readily. When we moved here and the place we had in Arkansas, we had it tested, but it was never going to be a problem because when you're under a couple hundred feet of rock, you're not getting whatever they spray or cow shit on a farm field down into there. You're taking thousands of years. That's fossilized water down there.
Fossilized water. That sounds like difficult to drink and kind of hard. Is it hard water?
It is hard. It'll put your eye out if you're not careful.
Yeah.
It will grow stalactites on shit if it's got a drip because there's so much calcium in it that it literally will. I had a leak and I had my plumber look at it. And he goes, it was a seep, and he's like, if I take it apart, it might be hard to put it back together. If you leave that in a week, it will heal itself. And he was not wrong. It will crust it up and stop leaking.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, if I was faced with that choice, I would do exactly that, Jack. I would get the water tested. I would insist that they test for heavy metals, which is not in the standard water test. Yeah. They test for E. coli and other bacteria. They test for pesticide runoff, I think, and some others, and some basic minerals. But they don't test for heavy metals. And so if you don't know there's lead in your water, you kind of want to know that. And once you know that, you know what kind of filter you want to run it through. I love the Berkey on my spring. And the reason I got the Berkey originally was I did that. And it leaves the minerals in. And I'm filtering something else. So I don't do the fluoride thing and take all the minerals out. And then I think that's a better way to get your basic mineral content in your body than to take supplements. Not that I don't take supplements for what I need, but yeah, there's a lot of iron in my water.
Martinson family says check for arsenic in Newfoundland wells. And I think there's place I didn't know one of the reasons almost nobody has a well in Alaska is because there's so much toxins in the ground from all the mining and shit. So I guess where you live really depends on that. So like I said, that place in PA, we would get it tested every year, and every year that you'd see the numbers start coming back up in it, and they were shocking the well. And what we ended up doing is we got a UV light thing, since it was a biological problem, not a metal problem. Yeah. And that's to your point, what are you filtering out? What is your toxin that you're concerned about? So this UV light basically was just all the water that came out of the well passed through this intense UV. And it would kill any biological organism that would be of any problem in there, and specifically whatever the one was that kept coming back. And they said it was from cow shit, basically.
That's probably E. coli or Giardia.
It was something else with a C.
Okay.
Iridium, I don't know, some shit. It was like, I don't want to die.
Literally, it was shit.
Yeah, it was literally like shit bacteria. And as soon as we got that, then we sent it to get tested, and it'd come back perfect. Arkansas was the best water we had. That well was 700 feet deep, and that water was literally, a couple 100,000-year-old water that was down in. It was the same water that came out in the springs down in town, the hot springs, but it wasn't hot yet up in the I guess the underground headwaters.
Yeah,
so you can get that, man. That's the way to go.
So Tim asked, what's a good test for the water that does it all? I don't have an answer. I can tell you how to get a test. Is call your county extension office and ask them, where does one get a test in my area? Call them and ask if they will test for all of the things you think you need to test for. And if they say no, like say no to the heavy metals test, which most of them will, say, where do I get that done? What I know in Tennessee is I had to send my water to Tennessee Tech University's lab and pay them about $500 for the original test, which was, not bad. They had never had somebody do what I asked for, but then they gave me a price. And other than that, it would have been the standard water test. So it takes some researching in your area. And I'm sure there's a way you could ship it somewhere in the US, but if you can find something you can drive to, that's a little bit better from just a water handoff. And they'll tell you how they want you to take the sample as well.
Yeah, it's probably worth $500 to know that you have cadmium, for instance, in your water. If you that's probably worth knowing. Yeah, I think Nicholas is right. Nick Covey here saying cryptosporidium. I think that was.
Yeah,
that was it.
It's like cryptocurrency, only it's cryptosporidium.
Yeah.
How could that leave your head, Jack?
I don't know.
You have a freakish memory. You're not.
It was a long time ago, and I even said it. I was right. I just couldn't remember how to pronounce it. And I don't think it's cryptosporidium. I think it's kleptosporidium. I don't know. That's from 2000-ish. There's a lot of dead brain cells between here and the year 2000.
I'm not going to ask why. Okay, Jack, any websites for going keto recipes? Day 89 of 90 of the challenge, looking for variety.
First of all, let me say this dude, Christopher, man, this dude is rocking. He just sent me an email yesterday about his progress. And this dude lost over 20 pounds eating all the food they say not to eat. And he is not like the guy like I was that needed to lose 100. Like he still has almost 10 pounds he wants to lose, but this guy's going to be seriously cut at his goal weight. And so he's done that. He's adapted to it. He's gotten alcohol out of his life. So he's done a great job. As far as recipes, I think you want to figure out what you want to make. I don't have like a go-to source for keto recipes, but figure out what you want to make and then research through search and YouTube are great for finding recipes, or just think about how to modify stuff. So here's an example. My wife loves crab cakes. Like crab cakes are her fiend food, man. Like if we travel and we go to a restaurant, they have crab cakes, she's ordering crab cakes. Of course, crab cakes are high in carbs because you make them with either saltine crackers or panko breadcrumbs or something like that. So she wanted crab cakes. So we went to Costco and I just bought a pound of, the lump crab meat. And I made crab cakes for her last night. And all I did was sub out the breadcrumbs with pork panko, which is basically ground up pork. So I just made the exact same recipe and took away the breading. And so I think a lot of times, one of the reasons people start craving these ideas of like recipes is they're looking to substitute something. And so something substitute, like pork rinds do substitute well for breadcrumbs, period. You had the sliders I made with them, Nicole. They were
they're great.
Amazing, right? But some things don't. So like if you're trying to make keto bread and all, my advice is just stop. Just quit. Just stop trying to do it. Either it's not going to be like bread or it's going to be fake keto, right? You're going to have all these starches and shit in it that actually are digestible and will spike your blood sugar, right? So just don't. If you really want bread, like once a month, eat some bread.
Yeah.
Like I
had a really great sourdough roll at your house. It was delicious.
What's that?
Had a really great sourdough roll at your house.
Yeah, those were pretty good. I ate half of one. That's the other thing too. Like you can eat half of one. Do a bunectomy, right? On your cheat day. A bunectomy is like when you take the bun and you take some of the middle out of the bun. So you get the best part, which is the outside where it's all baked and crusty and shit. And then you've reduced that. Feed it to the ducks or the chickens or whatever and go on with your life, man. Like if you really want sugar, eat some fucking candy once a month, right? But just don't let once a month become once a week and then become once a day.
Yeah. And I'm going to echo that is I don't go to resources. There are a lot of people providing keto recipes online. I think about, like, I make lists of things I used to like to eat that I haven't been eating when I get into what I call the cooking route. Because I'll be like, we're going to have the same chili spices over and over again on different kinds of meat until we want to kill ourselves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is me being lazy. Let me think about, like, do I want more of a Thai profile? Do I want a French profile? Do I want a Mexican profile? Like, what? Because every country has a different flavor profile. Germany has a different one than Italy. And then what things did I used to like to eat from there? And then how can I apply that to a primarily meat and low carb vegetable based diet from scratch? And that takes a lot of time, I guess. It doesn't take as much time as some people think it will, but that helps add variety. And then, if I want lasagna, I'll make lasagna and I just won't put the pasta in. I'll put a lower carb vegetable in to substitute or nothing. I mean, I've literally made spaghetti sauce soup basically from time to time when I was craving spaghetti and didn't put anything in for the pasta piece. The key is don't eat a gallon of that because that's actually going to spike your blood sugar too. That's a lot of tomato. But
yeah, like you got to be careful when people say are tomatoes keto. No, but it poisons the dose, right? So how much tomato?
Right.
If you eat 40 tomatoes, there's a lot of sugar in 40 tomatoes. But if you're using a couple ounces of tomatoes in a stir fry, you're going to be well below whatever your target is. Yeah,
Tom says Keto Connect is great. I haven't checked out Keto Connect, but
I think I know who he's talking about. Tom, are you talking about? It's like a husband and wife, and she had a baby a couple of years ago. They put it on the channel, all the stuff that like dealing with keto with that. I think if that's who he's talking about. Yeah, they have some pretty good shit. They were the first people that I saw. If he's talking about who I think that went through like all these low carb sweeteners. Are they really?
Oh, I saw that.
They got a glucose meter, and they would eat nothing but like 2 tablespoons of erythritol, which God bless you for science for doing that. That's got to be awful. And they would test their blood sugar at wake up, or like 30 minutes after wake up. So you get through that period where you can spike just because you woke up. And then they would eat it, and then they would test it 30 minutes later. And a lot of the shit that they say you can have, like if you're diabetic or keto or whatever, you can't. And the one that was the worst was malitol. Malitol caused a worse spike in blood sugar than sugar. And malitol's in all the fucking diabetic candies and shit like that.
Yeah.
So like these dudes are diabetic, they're trying to keep their blood sugar down. They go buy the malitol, hard candies or whatever, so they have a sweet thing. And they're freaking jacking their blood sugar up. They're destroying their freaking extremities. They're damaging their kidneys, and everybody's okay with this. Like, yeah.
Well, that's what Barry said. All your sugar-free stuff, if you Google what the ingredients are, 5 of them are sugar.
Yeah. No, if I want something sweet, I just eat something sweet.
Yeah.
And now, I know it's not on plan.
The like the Lakanto sugar substitute, that shit's legit. They ate 2 tablespoons of that, and it didn't move their blood sugar at all. It didn't swing in either direction. And that's the erythritol mixed with monk fruit. And that a lot of those ones, they do work, but they have that weird taste. And if you put 2 of them together, they almost like they cancel out that weird aftertaste. Like erythritol has like a minty, weird, cooling menthol thing going on. And monk fruit has more of like a sour thing, and they just kind of, it tastes like sugar. I use it in all my cooking rubs where I want some caramelization and stuff. It works great for that.
Cool. All right. Justin asks, have you ever looked into the biogas generating toilet/septic systems? No. I have. So Strong Roots Resources built an off-grid cabin in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they bought a system, and they decided not to install it because of the size of hole they need to dig. He didn't feel like he wanted to do that much work on installation, and so I believe they're using the composting toilet system. And then he offered it to me for sale. And I was thinking of putting a guest cabin here with that, just sort of as a demo for people who are interested. But I also decided the install would be way too much for what I was going to get benefit wise from that. So Strong Roots Resources probably still has a biogas system for sale at a reasonable price pre-inflation. And yep, it's still for sale. And, if you're looking for that, check it out. I think it's a great idea. I have looked at digesters for a long time because you can do that with food scraps too. And then generate methane gas, use methane gas to heat or cool. What I read about in those methane digester situations is if you really want to do anything significant, like heat your house or heat your greenhouse, you need to live in an environment that generates a lot of waste for it. So it would be better if you have like livestock, it actually might make sense to do that and then heat your greenhouse. But for what we have here, that waste, the waste we generate from livestock is way better in the soil at this time. So we're not going to put it in here.
How big was the hole? How big?
I don't remember, but it's not huge. It's just you're going to have to. So digging at my house is like it could go well or it could really not go well. It was big enough. I didn't want to have to pay the guy to dig the hole.
Yeah. I get way too many things I want to do, and I've learned to stop. So when we moved here, I decided immediately the appliances that were in this house did not meet what I wanted. So I upgraded all my appliances, and we had a gas stove. So I'm like, I'm going to put the gas stove out in the back shop, and I'm going to take 2 poly barrels and make a biodigester and make gas for the outside stove.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need a ton of stuff, and it's not going to cost a lot of money. And the most expensive thing would be the stove. So I already have the stove. And like the way you increase pressure with that barrel system is you throw like another brick on top of the barrel if your pressure's down, because one pushing on the other is a bladder that makes the pressure. And after 6 years of that stove sitting there and not ever getting to build one, I got rid of the stove. So I think the idea is valid, but it's what I always say, not everybody's going to do everything. And you see, you have to figure out what works for you. And it just isn't like a hole here. You know what a hole here costs, Nicole?
Yeah, I would.
It's a dynamite.
Yeah. Jack needs an above ground biodigester system.
Yeah. And that's why I was going to do that. And I was like, we have enough waste product that I could, and I had interns back at that time. So I could like send Josiah to go raid a dumpster or something if we needed more. And it just, in the end, it just really wasn't, so how much gas is going to come out of that versus how much is a grill-sized tank of propane filled up that'll last until the tank rusts around it, right? Like, how much effort am I going to put into that thing in our current situation in society? And the answer is not that much.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
It's a cool idea for the end of the world.
Yeah.
But that's one more thing that I've got to walk to the other side of the property or wherever it is,
I think that my favorite cool end of world idea was done in World War II with those the cars that they figured out how to convert it to run on the wood gas.
Wood gasification.
That's what I want to do at the end of the world, is make a wood gasification automobile.
Well, they have them right now. They look like 7,000 Honda generators. They come on a dolly system. It's got a firebox. You put wood in, and it literally is a gasified generator. And they start at about $6,000 turnkey to your door.
Yeah.
And there's much bigger units also.
Yeah.
Like we've got a company here. All they do is everything wood, and they take their sawdust and gasify the sawdust and run a ton of their saws and stuff at the sawmill off. So, I mean, they're almost to the point where they don't have to have any inputs other than wood product.
So their waste is their fuel. That's
yes.
cool.
Ooh, new life goals.
I went to see about getting their sawdust, and they're like, we use all of it.
Yeah.
Bill, this is one of Bill Mollison's claims that I don't know that anybody's ever verified, but most of his claims, when you verify them, they vet out. His assertion was that if you had about a typical 40-acre farm, as little as a tractor actually runs a year, because it runs to do certain things, it doesn't run nonstop, that if you dedicated 2 acres of it to an oil crop, like let's say black oil sunflower, it would provide all the fuel that tractor needed to serve that farm for a year. So you give up 2 of 40 acres to have all the power you would need for your tractor to do everything that it needs to do. Now, of course, I guess that would be a farm designed by him in his way with efficiencies and all, but that's kind of the same thing. Like your waste product is your fuel.
Yeah, I love how I discovered doing a hard project, and John's like, you can spend $6,000 and buy it ready to go, Nicole.
Yep.
It's a better ROI.
Somebody will always do the shit you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like before Fiverr existed, my original idea for a website like that, I was going to call it can'tsomebodyelsedoit.com.
Too long, but great name.
Yeah. Well, I got it from The Simpsons because that was like when he ran for sanitation commissioner or whatever. That was his slogan, can't somebody else do it? It's like, oh, yeah, because there's all kinds of shit I don't want to do, but there's people that will do it for money. So
we just have
Fiverr is that now.
We have so many people in the communities that don't look at what their time costs. And a lot of them, they don't ever leave their homestead, right? So their time really doesn't cost anything because they don't have the possibility of income. But if you just add things, if you look at everything as a dollar amount, what does it take to do it? What's it take to collect it? What's it take to wait for it to come in? And is the turnkey solution going to be much more seamless and cleaner than what you can? Will it be more efficient, right? So it's just that system. If you look at that, it's packaged cleanly. It's just like these solar generators. Somebody asked, we have Blue Yeti or Blue Eddy solar generators. And our system was $6,500 with all the panels and everything and the extra battery boxes. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, guys were selling $5 booklets on how to put these together with a little file folder cart and a battery and a tough box. And I said, as soon as somebody packages this thing, it's going to be a multi-million-dollar business. And Goal Zero was the first to really pop up on the scene with it, at least commercially blown up where everybody saw it well marketed. And it's the same thing with the wood gasifiers. Can you build one? Absolutely, you can. Can you build a dual barrel gas stove? A wood stove? Absolutely you can. It's not nearly as efficient as the $4,000 stove. Can you afford the $4,000 stove? Maybe you can't. But if you actually cut your own wood, that barrel stove literally burns 100 times more wood in 24 hours than the stove does, the good soapstone. You're going to load that box, and then when that thing is, when there's no more burn, it's still radiating all the heat. It's just the tightness of it. Can you do it? Yes, you can. What is your time worth?
Yeah,
I spent the equivalent of an HVAC system in my house, which I don't have one, on my wood stove for that reason.
Yeah.
And I have not regretted it a single day. I'll love that.
I do that calculus all the time. Like, is this worth my time? Like, when I do meat chickens, there's a place, it's 40 minutes from here, but they make great beef sticks. So I'll buy some of them out while I'm there dropping them off. And they do my chickens for $4 a bird. And that's like $4 a bird. If you do 50 birds at $200, I can make a hell of a lot more than $200 in the full day I would dedicate myself to doing that. I don't enjoy doing it on top of it. There's a difference if you enjoy doing it. Then there's the equipment cost. Because if I'm going to do that many birds, I'm going to get a plucker and a scalder. How long is it going to take for that to pay itself back? With me doing, like, I do a meat chicken run like every other year. Like, there's no way that ROI ever comes back to me. Or like, you have enough livestock that it makes sense for you to have dedicated livestock dogs, and you're feeding your dedicated livestock dogs from your own system, feeding them rabbits that are eating freaking shit from your property. I have freaking 30 ducks, a couple geese, and a few chickens. I can't justify the cost of maintaining livestock guardian dogs on my property when a bullet in the head of a bobcat takes care of the problem. Like, we all have to, it's not that any solution is good or bad. It's that solution for you under your circumstances at this time, does it make sense for you to go one way or the other?
Man, we have all the processing stuff here, like commercial processing stuff to do it. I'd still pay $6. Hell, I'd pay $8 now. If somebody come pick these damn things up and bring me back bags full of meat, I'd give them $8. It's just not. It's not here. So
I feel you're more like at the $10 a bird size right now, John.
I have 15-pound live Cornish rock hens, roosters right now. And when one's an asshole and keeps running into you or whatever, we just grab it and smash its head and we feed it to a dog. I don't have to pluck it or nothing. The dogs eat that all the time.
My dude does. You'll get this, John. Chickens are $4. Turkeys are $8.
Yep.
I've taken this dude turkeys that weigh over 50 pounds, and he's done them for $8. Yeah,
because they'll try to kill you.
It's $8 a bird here for processing. More if you want the USDA inspection, which I don't care about. It's a totally different process in the exact same processing plant, USDA versus not.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. Safety is a totally different level of safety.
Yeah, sure.
Because that would be easy to run that way, right? This is great. Somebody brought me coffee.
I've been trying to get coffee brought to me, but it hasn't happened yet.
Oh boy. You want me to text Dorothy?
I did, so don't do that. That'll make it worse.
Yeah, that would make it worse.
She either has
why does Nicole know and I don't know?
Or she's like, I ain't doing it today. I don't know what she's doing.
It's busy. Well, back to the ROI on your time, though. I think it's also, don't underestimate the importance of what are your interests and what do you like doing too, right? So if what you like to do is tinker and make a wood gas generator for fun, then do that.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
I mean, why not? You could totally put your effort there. I have this like really cool wood turn fountain pen right now. Somebody who likes turning wood made that. I didn't make that because I don't turn wood, but you know, that's kind of a cool thing. And that's not all bad either. That can lead you to be the person who does the off-the-shelf wood gas generator.
Yeah.
And that's why, like Paul Wheaton, I'm always fascinated by what he does because he does all of these regenerative building things that I would have never gotten into. And I can learn from all of his failures that he shares out there. Meanwhile, I'm more focused on sort of the food and food preservation side of the same world. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of pens, we knew a guy that Cantu Bruner is the name of his company. And I ordered 120 pieces from him. The order was $4,000 for the pens. So we doubled our money on him. He took that $4,000 and ran an ad on what's that huge syndicated talk show you were on, Jack? I can't remember the guy. Yeah, Glenn Beck. So he ran an ad on Glenn Beck's show.
Okay.
And then he generated $100,000 off of that ad in a 6-month period. You can whatever it is you like doing, you can turn that into something enormous. So
you have to want it.
So if you want to make pins, I mean, eventually you get to a point where you're doing pin kits, most guys. So like guys selling pins, they sell those things, out of the gate at $50 because they don't have the market. Once you have your market, then you do kits, just like leather wallets. Nobody making leather wallets cuts that shit by hand when they're doing volume. It comes as a kit, 144 pieces gross. Yeah. And then when you do one by hand, that's $1,000 wallet. And I know there's guys going, I'd never pay $1,000.
You're not the customer.
There are enough customers that will pay $1,000 that dude will stop taking orders at $1,000.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Do you want to have the $1,000 customer or the $2 customer?
Yep.
Same with knives. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I carry a very expensive knife, not because I'm a snob, because I like the guy that makes the knife, and I'm willing to spend it occasionally to have something really nice.
He does make some nice knives.
Yes, he does.
I bet they make good Christmas presents.
They do if you really like the person getting one.
Yeah.
Are you going to say his name?
mtknives.com. Oh.
Patrick
Norman. I keep telling him he needs to make this knife. He made 4 of these. They all sold for over $500 a piece. He never made another one.
Well, every time I talk to him, the conversation ends with, well, I don't want to have to make more knives.
Yeah.
He's doing what he wants to do. He could make I always have that conversation with knife guys, having been around enormous knife companies and being involved in them. And it always ends with, well, I'm kind of like my life the way it is right now.
Yeah. The ones that are successful financially, what they eventually do, they build up enough of a demand for their designs. Then they design a knife, and then they partner with a major knife manufacturer who actually makes the knives. Like Ron Hood did with Buck with the hoodlum and the pump, right? Like his wife is still gaining income from those knives, and he passed away in 2011.
So when you do collaborations, you typically get $5 to $15 per unit sold if you have a name behind you.
Yeah.
But once knife makers get big, they don't actually make knives anymore. The blanks come from Waterjet. They sharpen it. They maybe put a handle on it. They put it in a sheath and package it. You don't have to do the dirty stuff anymore once you've got the name. And when you do the dirty stuff, you're selling $5,000 unit knives.
Yeah, and it's even less than that. Like Adam's here saying, like Ken Onion with Kershaw and Sierra like Kit Carson, all those guys don't even sharpen a knife anymore, right? Like, so what made it work for Ron with the hoodlum and the punk was Buck picked up the manufacturing. So you got Buck's Reach, but then Cabela's brought the knife in into like the Cabela's catalog and all, which now includes Bass Pro Shop. And you know, you're done at that point. You're going to sell enough volume every year. And okay, they might sell that knife for $150 or $250, and you might only get $5, but you don't do anything anymore except market the brand and be the face of the brand.
That's right.
That's kind of where Black Rifle went, right? Their guys are all marketing now.
Yeah.
They've got a great, I mean, I've met their roaster at their factory, great roasters.
That's working on your business instead of in your business.
Yeah.
And you have to decide for yourself what you want. Like, I don't want an organization of that size.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I came from, was having large organizations, you know, where you're the president of the company and you're not involved in the day-to-day everything anymore. And we had the one company, we had 50 in-house employees and 1,200 contractors. And all I wanted to do was kill everybody on planet Earth. I was such a miserable bastard person when I worked in that capacity. So, but if you want that size of an organization, you can't possibly be doing everything all the time. You know, an organization the size of John can't freaking sew everything SOE ships every week. I mean, that's not going to fucking happen.
No.
And if you could, you need a smaller building. I mean,
and even higher prices, right? Yeah. Everybody complains about his prices, except for the people who buy his gear.
Yeah.
People buying my gear.
Complain about your price that don't buy from you. Why the fuck do you care?
That's what I'm saying. It's like people who buy from him are like, "This is great.
This is expensive. Did you ever buy it? No, then fuck off."
Yeah.
That's right? Anytime somebody's complaining, right? There's always some guy giving you free advice, especially business advice.
I love
when they complain about a product, I ask, well, what product do we make that you do like? And they they fall silent.
Yeah.
There's tons of good idea fairies. None of those guys ever
generally. What product do you sell?
Yeah, successful people aren't giving you advice because they're busy being successul.
Yeah. One of my philosophies is you never take advice from anybody on anything that they're not proven competent in. I've modified that. My father's advice originally was don't take advice from anybody that's not doing better than you are, which over the years, I realized how arrogant that was, because someone that maybe is not as successful as a podcaster as me, but they're a successful podcaster, might know an editing tool or a platform or something that can help me. So, but if they're not competent in it, so like if you got a guy that's never done a fucking podcast in his life and he's going to tell me how to do a podcast, I'm probably not going to listen. Right.
That's all the guys on YouTube when they're talking shit. You click on their channel and lo and behold, they have no videos.
This channel has no content.
Yeah,
right? I mean that's like
that's what I put. I'm like, well, I clicked on your page to see how you do it better, and lo and behold, you haven't done it.
You haven't done anything.
Yeah.
You haven't done anything. That's what.
And it's not hard to make a video.
It's not. And I love the people like, you know what you need, dude? You need to get 2 Grow Pros. And they like by the time they're done telling you what you need to do, they're like basically saying, you need to spend $5,000 to do this video better so that I approve of it.
They should send you all the equipment they bought that they're not using.
Exactly what I tell them to do. I'm like, you know what? Here's my PO box. Please send all that shit to me and I will make sure that we start using it immediately.
Yep.
Has it ever shown up in your PO box, Jack?
No. You usually get some kind of butthurt response to that. Like, man, fuck you. I was just trying to help. Whatever.
Our first 1,000 videos had no editing. We literally loaded everything raw. That's why they were an hour a piece, every one of them.
Yeah.
So I met this kid who is homesteading, and he's 12 years old. RNL Homestead, I think, is his YouTube channel. I met him this fall, and he had a couple of hundred followers. Within a week after kind of meeting people in the Homesteader Network, we all talked about his channel. He was over 1,000. And he made a promise to us that he would post a video every day for 30 days. And his first videos, they were good, but they were not heavily edited or, multiple angles. And that was in September. And now it's December, and the quality of his videos have gone way up. There's more editing, there's thumbnail images, the content is tighter. And the reason that happened is what? It's because he did a video every day. And every time as he worked on it, he's like, well, it'd be nice if this other piece is there. Oh, I want to do this editing thing. Oh, I see my other video. I said, I'm not going to say next time. It's a natural progression once you start doing it. And then I got to thinking about all of these people who say, I want to start a YouTube channel. And they just don't because their videos are quote unquote not good enough. I'm like, go back and look at his. They're not bad at the beginning. They're just less edited.
When you see people make posts that they want to start a YouTube channel, there's dudes that aren't doing shit. Because if he wanted to start a YouTube channel, he would be standing there. Here's the link. Please go like my YouTube channel. And that's generally 99% of the truth. That's going to be true for everything you encounter.
Yes.
They just want to insert themselves. They don't want to act.
Yeah, it's funny. If I could change one thing about humans, it would be that when they don't want to act, they stop telling people they want to act.
Because that gives them, because by speaking about it and being around the crew, and you don't have to go where people are anymore. You can just do it, right? You can just show up. And that's them acting to them, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I did a 2-hour video on Sunday where I set up a tripod pointed at my garden, didn't have a mic, couldn't look at what people were saying. In the title of the video, I said, I can't read your comments. That is the title of the video. And then wrote in the description, hey, I'm just capturing this live so I don't have to put this information on my phone because I want to do a time lapse of how to plant garlic. And I streamed for 2 hours and more than 100 people watched that video. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Like they literally just watched some chick be out there working her butt off with a garden fork and other things for 2 hours. And I was like, I'm going to make a video that sucks. If you ever want me to talk during these, you have to email me. If enough people do, I will invest the resource to get a second person to read the comments because I can't read comments while I'm gardening. It's just too hard.
It's hard on some level to do comments and pay attention to people like what we're doing right now when you're alone. Like when I have a guest, I have to balance it with making sure I'm listening to my guest.
Yeah.
I can do it. But when I'm solo, that's why I'm so big on the all caps. Because at least maybe I'll see it out of the corner of my eye and hit the star. And so doing something active and responding to comments, you got to have a team for that. I've kicked around the idea of doing like a Cooking with Jack sideshow or something. And it has to, because if I'm going to do it like live, then you'd have to have somebody doing that for you. Somebody would have to be feeding you that information, you know?
Yep. We're about to do a show that has an actual producer with it. I heard you say while I was over there, I heard you say that you turned it on your live for 2 hours. I dipped into that a couple of times while you were live. I also heard you say you didn't have a microphone. I still don't have a microphone. Anything we do with a microphone, that's behind a paywall. It's only $1, right? If they won't pay $1, then, they don't get it, right? Yeah. But a lot of nights at midnight, 2 a.m, when I'm working, I'll just turn on a live. And tons of people show up 24 hours a day. Whenever you turn that on, it'll be a different group of people. And I'll talk to them sometimes, but I'll go for a couple hours and just build a product. And it's really more to show that at midnight, I'm out there, right? On Friday night at 2 a.m., I'm working. And they always want the pill, right? How did you get here? 35 years of this. And today, as the front guy of the company, I still do the exact same thing as the day I started. There's a lot of other things. I just get paid a lot more to do it, but I still do the exact same foundational things.
Actually, what I was most impressed by from you, John, when I was up at your place like a couple times this year, was that you actually do all the shit for the livestock.
I do.
I had no idea that was the case. I figured, listen, fucker, get out there and feed the chickens. Like, no, you do all that shit every day on your own. That's actually very impressive.
We also feed all of our employees, and I wash every dish for every meal that we have, because that's the menial thing, right? And when COVID started and we didn't know what it really was, I felt that was important. And then I realized that when I pay a dude he takes 45 minutes, I can do the dishes in 5. And I can do the livestock in 17 minutes total. Now, all my guys can do it, but I can do literally anything that is demonstrated within this business better than anybody doing it, because that's the time. When we do it and we go out, I go, okay, now this took 17 minutes. So they have that in their head at all times.
Yeah, that's the reverse of what we were talking about earlier, like hiring out a thing, like knowing when you should do the thing because you can do it faster, more efficiently, better than anybody you outsource it to. I hear from somebody at least every 2 weeks that wants to do editing services for my podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, it would take me longer to get the content to you.
Yeah.
Than to do the editing. Now, video editing and stuff is a pain in the ass. You're dinking on stuff for a while. Like, it's an audio show. Bumper music, exit, outro, fucking render, upload. You're still downloading the goddamn base file, and I'm fucking published. Like, there's no, and if I had somebody here on site, I still would do it myself, because by the time I went and got the motherfucker and said, hey, it's time to edit, I'm done. And we do have to, like, as business people, also evaluate, like, you get really good at certain things in your business, and you do it at a speed that you don't even think about. You're multitasking, you know, like all the shit you do inside WordPress. I think WordPress is easy as fuck because I've been using it since 2006. Right? That's why I think it's easy. Like, to write up an ops manual to teach somebody to do basic shit isn't worth it. I can do it like that and be done with it.
So I hate WordPress. I'm not really good at editing. So anytime you see, like, we use Dropbox, which takes forever for the files that we're moving. I can't even move a day's worth of video through Dropbox. When we next day hard drives, it still takes 3 or 4 days. We've got some really good video dudes, but to have a good video dude, you're $1,000 to $2,000, and that dude's here twice a week, right?
Yeah,
that's what those guys cost. When you see all these videos off the ranch and Black Rifle, those are $100,000 video guys. Like, that's base level before they even do any shit. Those guys write their own paychecks. And then as far as having people take care of animals, if you want to see true humanity, pay some normal person to take care of animals and don't check on them for a week. You will always have dead animals.
Yes, you will.
Always. That's who you walk amongst in the world. And like, every time you go to Walmart, there are people willing to kill you, eat you, or do terrible things to you. And it's just the imaginary framework of civilization that holds that society together. And that's the same thing with taking care of animals. I've had trusted employees, people that I literally believed in, and I've always had animals dead. Oh, expensive animals. We had thousands of reptiles. And I had a dude come in. I had Nicolas Cage's reptile guy come in from Las Vegas, and I had another dude come in. And these guys were expensive dudes, right? Worked with zoos and shit. I still had fucking dead animals. Hey, where is this thing at, right? I know we just got this shipment. I want to take some photos. Oh, I moved the cage. Well, when I go to take the trash out that night and take rat bedding out, the dead animal's in the dumpster. That's just human beings.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't say who was on the other end of this conversation to protect the guilty. I'll just say it wasn't his wife. But I heard a conversation with Nick Ferguson when he was here one time with somebody that was watching after his animals. And this is literally what I hear him say. Yes, you have to give them water every day. They're living creatures. They need water every day.
Yep.
Yes, food too. Every day. They have to have food every day. No, not every other day. Every day you have to feed. Do you eat every day? This is the side of the conversation I'm hearing. And it was a person that should have known that. You shouldn't have to explain that to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nobody should fucking have to be told that a goddamn living thing has to eat every day.
And when it freezes, you have to change the water multiple times a day. And these are people that I walk with, right?
Yeah.
Hey, come on. This is how I do it. This is why I do it. As long as the outcome's the same, I don't care if you change a few steps, but I've been doing this 30 years. There is a reason this is the way we still do it. And inevitably, they will still kill your shit.
I have one person that I can 100% count on named Michael, who's the guy that does the cooking at my workshops. He's been here for everything. When I'm not here, I feel the place is maybe in better hands. But when I travel, when Dorothy and I are gone, he stays here. And we pay him to stay here. And he probably, if nothing goes wrong, he probably works an hour a day. And we pay him a day wage to be here, because if something goes wrong, all I'm going to get is a text. This fucking broke and I fixed it this way. And that is so rare that you'll find somebody like that.
That's because he's not a dipshit.
It's definitely not a dipshit.
Well, he also runs his own homestead. So I haven't had a lot of problems with death. I used to when I hired people who didn't also have farms. Now I'd rather have somebody here as the security house sitter and have a farmer come by and help with the farmer part, because if you've never taken care of livestock, there's just a huge, like, you don't look at it and say that one looks off.
And we're talking, $3,000 morph pythons,
Yeah.
If he'd have let a cow king die, I probably wouldn't have known it. It's because it's the $5,000, bearded dragon that has gone missing or whatever it was, but that's how it is. And typically good people cost more because they can choose what they want to do, right? When I'm going to build something custom and I throw you a price and a dude's like, well, why does it cost? Because it's not that the bag costs that much. That's what you have to pay me to do this instead of go out this weekend and do what I want to do with my wife. It's the 35 years you're paying for. It's not the bag.
Yep. Yeah. Part of it is just, it is that 35 years. It is the experience. It is knowing what you're looking at and seeing that something's just not right. And you got to understand the average person's not going to see that. They're not going to notice that, especially with reptiles. I mean, it's laying there like it always does. Yeah, but
right.
But it's not breathing, so it's dead. Yeah, so that's a problem.
Crystal says automated waterer. So out of all the stuff we have here, I actually don't use automated waterers. I don't even use a 5-gallon bucket system. I use bottles on every rabbit cage, and they have this flip lid, which is useless. I pull the cap off. I have a hose. I walk and fill all the waters first, because if it's an automated system and that tubing gets clogged or the brass liquor gets clogged, you won't know it until that animal looks like it's almost dying. I even take my water bottles and flip them to make sure water comes out because I know where that bottle should sit. I know that this rabbit's going to use a quarter of this bottle today. And then we actually for everything we have triplicates of it. So we'll bring those things in and just dunk them in bleach and run them through the sterilizer in the kitchen here, every 6 months or so. But we always have brand new ones, and then we have stacks of bowls and everything. Yeah. But I'm inherently lazy. If you give me an easy way to do something, I won't pay attention to it. So we actually fill by hose. And I mean, I got over 100 rabbits right now. In taking care of the 100 rabbits, it's 17 minutes to do the 100 rabbits and the hundreds of birds that we have here.
Yeah. So it's not automated, but it's systematized.
Yes.
Like everything is where it's supposed to be. There's a line.
And when I get out of line, I'll go up. I know which birds I'm feeding first, because if I feed them, it'll pull them out of my way and they're not under my feet. And then we'll hit the pins. When I do one out of sequence, I always miss something.
Yep. So you have that set up like you have your factory set up. You know how things have to flow.
No, this flows way better than my factory does.
My worst offense is all the little ponds that I have need to be topped up from the well. So you put a hose in there, you turn it on, and putting it in there, turning it on, and saying to myself, you should set a timer.
Yep, they always overflow.
And then not setting a timer. And then Dorothy, because we're on a well, like if you're running water outside, the water pressure inside drops to like half. So like it'll be 2 hours later, and Dorothy will be like, are you running water somewhere? And you're, shit. Like, and then you go out and it's a duck mud puddle everywhere. So what I've done with that is I use like reverse automation. So I'll take a mechanical timer and plumb that in. And then when I throw that hose in there, I'll set it for 15 minutes. If it overflows for 5, I don't care.
So we had a bunch of the mechanical ones that you put on your spigots. Yeah. We had those things just disintegrate this year.
All of a
sudden, yeah.
You get 2 seasons out of them if you're lucky.
Yeah. So we topped the aquaponics system just off of city water, right? I don't even care about the chlorine. It never has killed the fish. It doesn't affect the plants. But I'll leave that sucker on. I'm like, okay, at 9 o'clock, I got to do a live. Make sure you turn the hose off. And then I'll do the live. And then I'll get up in the morning and I'm like, what is all this water coming from? And that thing's ran literally for hours. Oh. And as much chlorine is pumped into that system, it's never killed those.
That's impressive. I'm not surprised that it doesn't cause a problem topping up because it's a volume ratio.
Oh no,
running it through that long. That's actually surprising.
Yeah,
I am a huge fan of float valves to sumps in systems.
That would take care of it.
That way you never like the ones that I have that are like that. Even if there's a problem, it's never a catastrophic problem. But if there's a problem in one without it and I don't catch it, it can be catastrophic. Like, so I've tried. The only one I don't have a float valve in now is one that getting a pipe to that sump is going to be a lot more fucking work than I want it to be. But yes. Float valves are the shit, man. That's, and they're designed to work in systems that cows drink out of, so they're pretty robust. That's the other side of it. The other thing I've learned is all the connections, I always put a little bit of plumber's tape on, not because it doesn't leak when you do that, but because it doesn't like fuse together with my shitty water. Like you'll be able to get it apart later, where sometimes you put shit together and it's like, that's never coming apart.
Yep.
That's Sawzall separation level.
Okay. Time for a Chinese fortune. You ready?
All right.
Okay. Your deeds today will be your memories tomorrow.
In bed.
In bed. It works.
I've never heard one not work.
Your deeds
I like that
today will be your memories tomorrow. Yeah.
That's true. Like a lot of people that like are the people that we're always hard on. The reason that their life sucks is because their deeds yesterday were inconsequential. Like it's not that they didn't do anything. It's they didn't do anything beneficial to their future yesterday, right? Like plenty of people do shit all the time. They're not necessarily lazy. They're just inefficient or lazy or both.
So I like the last thing you do today is the first thing you don't have to do tomorrow.
But
along with what Jack said, there's tons of people that start a business, and yes, they're busy, 16 hours a day, but they're doing shit that doesn't matter. They're doing menial shit. They're just moving. They're not accomplishing.
Well, it's a very easy stress reaction to feel like I'm going to feel better if I finish something. And so you start prioritizing. This is a trap, right? That you can get into when you start a business. You start prioritizing little things that don't matter because it feels good to finish, as opposed to working on that amorphous long-term, find your customers and talk to them and sell to them. That's usually the thing that gets not done, which if you don't fix that part, your business does not stay.
Yeah. When you're not sure
go ahead.
When you're not sure what to do, always do something. That's something I heard Jack say, 15 years ago, probably, but it really did stick, right? Because most people aren't going to do anything. So if you're a guy that acts, you got a 50-50 chance that it's actually going to do something. But then you said, Nicole, when you need money, if you need revenue right now, if you need to make some money, literally pick the phone up and just call your customer. Just call them. Even if it's somebody that just placed an order, call your customer and thank them from the order and then process the order, right? Hey, it's going to go out today. Hey, we're going to get it out tomorrow. In calling that customer is going to tell at least 2 other people about you immediately. They're going to go and make a post about you. Every time we ship a box out, we have a 50-50 chance that when we ship an order to a customer, they're going to immediately place another order. It just happens. And on any day, we have 1,000 open orders. So it's very easy to make that move where we need that to move.
I find the people that are the worst offenders with busy work in a business are new to their business.
Mm-hmm.
They have a good buffer, like they have time to become profitable. They did the exit strategy right from their employer, so they have this buffer, and they don't need money today, but they need money today, and they just don't know it. What I mean by they don't need it is they can pay the bills this month, right? And they came from a job where they worked in a fairly large company that if your boss walked around and you were typing shit on your computer, including, hey, buddy from high school, fuck off on Instagram, as long as they didn't see it was Instagram, they were like, oh, he's working. Right? They come from a place where maybe 3 or 4 hours a day they're in meetings, doing absolutely fucking nothing productive. But hey, he's in a meeting. So
or yoga.
In their head, yoga equals work. So I'm doing stuff all day long. So I don't know why I'm not successful. Well, because you don't have a fucking salesman out there filling fucking orders, right? You don't have a marketing department developing marketing collateral where you can fuck off for half the day and you kind of held down a desk and it's okay. Now you're everything. You're everything from CEO to chief bottle washer.
Yeah.
Like, and until you get that mindset, especially as a small startup, you're not going fucking nowhere.
Yep.
You just solidified something for me, Jack, that's always bothered me. I'm really interested in the remote office situation for large companies because there's a big old battle going on. Should they come back to work or not? But before that happened, I was an advocate for let people work remotely because they're happier. And if you set it up right, people will get their jobs done. And then I shouldn't care if it took them 8 hours or 6 hours or 4 hours. And the argument I would get from managers would be, but I feel better if I see them working in the office. that is an expression of laziness. That manager has not figured out how to assess the quality of the output from their employees. And that's the problem, not if they're in the office or not. And I never thought of it that way.
He's working because I see him sitting at his desk.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I took over one of the divisions for Neil back in those days, it was recruiters and they were not meeting recruiting targets, which they didn't have. That was part of the structural problem. But the first thing I did was I had the IT guy pull all the phone records. And I'm like, you motherfuckers are never on the phone. Well, we do everything by email. Do you really want me to have your email records pulled next? Well, no. All right. All right. So like, I'm like, y'all need to be making fucking phone calls. And you could say you do everything by email, but if you were making your numbers, I wouldn't give a shit. But that's not the method you were taught when you came here by Neil as his recruiter. You were taught to find the candidate, not the job opening, and take the candidate to the prospective employers and sell the candidate to people that weren't hiring. Because that's how we get a $60,000 RIF for putting one guy in place. But that's not what you're doing. And I know you're not doing it because you were on the phone, 2 hours last week, 2 fucking hours of 40. Oh, and 90 minutes of the calls were the same number. And I think that's your mom. So, of course, I'm a dick, but all I was doing is looking at a productivity metric. Honest to God, those people would probably be more afraid to fuck off that much remote working than in an office. Because in the office, everybody's doing the same fuck off and and nobody said anything about what you were doing. So it must be okay.
Right.
You put somebody in a remote situation, especially in a production-oriented job, like I'm going to be looking at your metrics every week as your manager. That's all I want to know. And it doesn't have to be sales or recruiting, right? It can be if you can't define a productivity matrix to an employee, why do you have that employee?
Well, it's accountability. And if you don't start accounting from the beginning, you're never going to be able later. So if you start from the very beginning with accountability, they're going to be used to the accountability. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I had people challenge me on it. Like one doctor said, well, like I have a front office person. All she does is put people back. Right. That's all she does. So she's basically a receptionist. Right. I'm like, well, how long does it take her to put the average person from the time they get in to have them into the system and put back so that the receiving nurse can do the heart, blood pressure, all that shit? Well, I don't know. Well, then there's a metric you don't know. Mm-hmm. How long does it take from the time a customer walks in and stands there at that fucking window till that person fucking acknowledges their existence? You don't know? Okay, there's a metric. Like there's a metric that we could be doing here, right? And I was like, now your nurses that are handling people going into rooms and handing them off to you, how long does that take? If you have one nurse that's putting back, I don't know fucking how many, let's say 20 people a day, and another one is doing 10, the one that's doing 10, unless there's a good fucking reason, is fucking slacking. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to lose the one putting 20 back because you don't do something about the one putting 10 back. And employers don't get that either, right? They like doctors and shit, they have a degree, they have a license, they can do a thing that other people can't, so they just expect to be successful. You're not putting a metric on that person. What happens is the motherfucker that works his ass off for you or works her ass off for you knows who the slacker is. And when they don't feel there's a difference, either they slack too or they leave and go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that's something. I don't think it's that they don't get it, Jack. I think it's that they don't like that they're going to have to do the thing that makes them look like a bad guy.
Then you better hire somebody to do it for you.
Yeah, because I mean, I learned that lesson totally the hard way. I was way too nice to people, gave them way too many chances. And now I'm not, like, from an employer standpoint, I'm not sure anybody would want to work for me because I'm not very understanding anymore.
And back to what you said about the guy starting a business and he doesn't need to work a lot right now because he's got that savings. You need to run your business as though your business only operates off incoming money, right? Your bank account, your personal bank account doesn't run that business. Yeah. And if it is, you're not going to succeed in business. Like if you don't have hustle. And then, business isn't for everybody. Business isn't for most people. And that's okay because the world still needs slaves. So stay a slave. If you're not willing to fucking maneuver and hustle, that's not your world, and that's okay. Everybody needs that slave mindset.
That's actually really fun. Jack was cracking up when you said that.
Nick says, so do remote offices isolate the slackers from the attention of the hard workers so that there's better morale? Maybe to a degree, but as soon as you put people into a remote working situation, as a manager, you're forced to look at their metrics. You have to. You have nothing else to make your determination on, right? And so, like, one of the things I've always said, like, when you're in a typical structured, entity, your biggest job is to make sure that your boss never has his boss come to him and use your name in a negative way. If you do that, you'll probably be okay, right? And there's some bureaucracy in games that can be played. But when you put people in a remote worker situation, that dude has to go to his dude and say, hey, this is how the department's running. He has to get that story from somewhere. And the only way you can really do that is analyzing metrics. And like customer service and stuff like that, anything that's computer-based where you're really on the computer a lot, I've known, and this is going way, way back, like one of the rep firms that I managed back in the 90s, he literally had keystroke monitoring on his people. He knew when they were logged in, what they were doing, et cetera. They had no privacy. And his view of that was, I gave you a computer. That's your computer for work. That's not your computer. That's my computer. You have your own computer at home. I don't monitor your computer. I don't give a fuck what you do on your computer. But when you're logged into my system, I expect you to be making customer calls, setting up appointments, contacting your managers from the various organizations that we represent. That's what I expect you to do. And so he knew more about what his people were doing than the average person that has an office.
You could do that through a portal.
Yeah.
Remotely.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, the tech that he had is 25 years old now.
Yeah, it's much easier to monitor now.
Yeah. Just
cameras are cheaper too.
Just phone the NSA up and say, what are my guys doing?
Yeah. Hey, NSA.
Is Nicole really working? No, she's posting cat photos.
It's right. No, I'm watching kitten videos, man. Those are the best.
No, Nicole's destroying people's attention span with short form content.
I am doing that now, including my own.
I know it's the thing I should do. That's like one more thing. Like, there's things you should do for your business that you don't because you just don't want to.
Yeah.
Like, I know short form is where everything's at now. I'm not a short form guy. Just not.
I'm turning into one. It's what it is. I still do the long podcasts, but I've been experimenting with it. And I'll tell you right now, I get the most interaction on the Book of Faces Reels.
Really?
And your money's going to come from Facebook.
Yeah. And it's like, I had one get 1,000 views yesterday.
And what was it? What were you doing?
It was the one where somebody complained about me making videos when my face looks like that.
That's what
I didn't have makeup on.
That's what I was talking about.
Somebody complained.
Yeah.
You do videos without makeup on.
Because my face, like, why do you make videos when your face looks like that?
Why do you want?
I mean, I have makeup on right now, not very much, but when I'm on a walk making videos in the morning, and I just don't. It's because I don't. And I'm not going to get all dolled up to go on a walk with my dogs.
You should have told them that you were deeply offended by that.
I told them it's because it's what my face looks like.
That's just my look.
That's what my face looks like.
RBH. That's just my look.
Yeah, I mean, and that's back. I mean, it's back to those people who are, we want your videos to be better, so you need to make all these changes. Well, like I do put a little makeup on when we do these live streams, and because you do look more washed out on video, whatever. And I have a vanity problem, but if I'm on a walk with my dogs, it's just is what it is. If you walk up to my house and knock at the door at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, you're gonna see unmade up Nicole.
That's why we highlight them. When we get some dude talking shit, and I make an Instagram about it, there's 4,000 people that see that thing within a couple of minutes. Yeah. And then it spikes the algorithm. When I put up some shit about some real shit, like 2 dudes comment. That's how it always is.
Yeah, no, people love that controversy shit. That's why all these fucking non-reality TV shows are on every fucking channel now. That's why there hasn't been a goddamn music video on MTV for 25 fucking years, right?
Yeah, they should rename themselves.
And that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but bring back fucking music videos, man. What the hell? Like, I don't get it. I don't. Or change the name of the fucking channel.
A lot of people making music could not perform the music live, right?
Yeah.
They did it one time, They did it off the phone. They did it in the mic. They got their line, then the next line, the next line. Like I got a buddy that's got 10 albums out. And when we asked him if he would perform, the truth was he had never performed because he never redid the song once it was out.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that. Studio musicians and shit.
Yeah. But music videos, you don't have to be able to do it live. You just have to conceive of a video. Like,
and do it once.
You know, total eclipse of the heart, run around in a flowy dress at a prep school.
Yeah. 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 What was the one with Pat Benatar where they were fucking bombing Nazis and shit? Shadows of the Night, right? And she had like this fantasy that they were like, she was in World War II bombing fucking Nazis. And it was like Edge of Hogan's Heroes comedy level shit. See, that was good though. We're talking about it. That was fucking 1982.
Yeah.
You know, we're not talking about fucking Real World or whatever the fuck they have on there now because it sucks. This is nothing to do with
there are people on this live stream that weren't born when those videos came out.
Yeah, you young fucks.
Yep.
Oh. Okay.
Now for something completely different. Anyone know if Pawpaw has high sugar content?
Yes.
You know why, Jack?
Because it tastes like bananas. And anything that tastes like bananas has a lot of sugar in it.
Anything tastes good is probably not good for you.
Well, think about any fruit. Its goal is to be eaten.
Quickly.
Right?
Calories.
It wants to be eaten so that something will eat it and go shit somewhere and then fertilize a seed on the ground. That's the purpose of, that's why plants make fruit. So they attract animals and peoples with sugar because sugar is actually pretty rare in nature. So
bright color.
Bright colors, tasty, sweet. So any fruit is going to tend towards sugar, but pawpaws are basically like banana custard. So they're pure sugar.
They taste like a banana meets a pear, and I eat 3 or 4 of them every year in September. It's 1 week of my life.
I've never seen a ripe one in my life.
Oh, you need to be here in September.
I killed 5 pawpaw trees and stopped planting them here.
Yeah, I know why you killed them. I've also killed them.
I planted them
you know where they grow in Tennessee? North-facing slope near a creek bed or marshy area.
Yeah, they're an understory tree.
Yeah, and then if they're right on the edge, so I always see them growing by the road, then they put on fruit because at first they need shade and then they need to grow and then they need light
shade
to fruit.
Shade to grow and then they need sun to fruit. Yeah.
Yeah.
A unique niche. And they're not that productive either. Like
No, we shake the tree, they fall. I put them in my fridge for a week, which is about how long they last, even though there are other ways to preserve them. And I don't. I just figure that's my season. If anybody visits that week, I'm like, hey, you want to try a pawpaw?
That's what we do with the figs.
Yeah, I love figs.
Also,
I'm jealous of his fig hedge to this day. I took cuttings off that and failed. Really? I have to try again next year. Yeah.
You know, that was.
I've killed a lot of figs here, though.
That was our forefathers. That was their sugar. They would plant figs because even in northern climates, if you protect the tree, you can have figs even in northern climates. And if you look at a lot of the old recipes, like if you go like watch J.A. Townsend's son's YouTube videos and stuff, a lot of times they'll be using figs as sugar because you didn't just have sugar in the 1600s in Philadelphia, right? You had to figure out a way to get sweet. And honey's been around forever, but like the level of production we have with honey today was not around either.
That Townsend channel is great too, man. Just the history and the food. He's got a few different channels.
I really dig watching his stuff because you see the way people actually lived. Yeah. You know, the salt pork alone to me is fascinating.
Yeah.
Like you buy a barrel with the whole fucking pig in the barrel. Like you open the barrel and there's the face who's looking up at you and shit, you know.
That's back when we knew our food.
They just packed it in like as much salt as they could fit around the pork. Like it was just pure salt and pork. And they would put like some barrels would be like a 2-pig barrel. There's 2 whole pigs in that barrel. Now, I don't think they packaged any of the organs because I don't think those keep.
I don't think that's the same. Yeah. That's what sausage is for.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is what it is.
If anybody's looking for like good content that's not going to be all rooted in, you know, current trends and shit that actually is useful, That's good. There's a lot of good shit on BBC too that's on YouTube, like the Wartime Farm series. And
Yeah,
all
those
that.
are great. Yeah.
Victorian Farm. There was one
Tudor Farm.
Tudor Monastery Farm. That was really interesting.
Yeah. They also do a court square where they revitalize the whole court square from like Renaissance time, for instance, and the bread maker, and they're short on wheat and they're not grinding enough wheat. So the historian shows up and she's like, well, you can add, it was something crazy, like mercury or something sawdust. Yeah, there was sawdust, but there's just the crazy shit that was happening back then. And they usually live for a year in this time period.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are great. I've watched every one of those I could find because they're super interesting.
Yeah, when you start watching them, YouTube will target all the other ones you don't know about to you.
Yeah. And then you have to go on the episodic search because every so often it'll have the whole series, but two. Yep. You have to go find those too.
YouTube has a bad habit of taking those down too. So what I do when I find one I really like, I strip them all and I put them on my Odyssey channel and make them.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah. That's totally smart. Another natural sweetener.
I would make a YouTube playlist with them episodically, like you're saying, even if they were on 5 different dudes' channels, so that they were there. And then I would come back and like half of them would be gone.
Yep.
Yeah, Ruth Goodman. That's the chick that's like the head producer she's awesome.
Are you also auto-populating everything to Rumble?
Yeah, I auto-populate everything that can auto-populate.
Cool.
Okay, here's one. What are my options for keeping Muscovy ducks, 1 drake and 5 safe while doing free-range rotational grazing? I assume is what they meant there. Also, permanent perimeter fence, about 1,500 square feet, is out of the budget.
Well, they're not going to be safe because things eat them. So
everything,
but they're not. But the fencing is only to keep things out. Understand? They're not going to run away. Muscovy ducks, once they decide they live at a place, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So they're not going to run away on you, but you're not going to keep them safe free ranging. However, they are very fucking lazy, and you can use that to your advantage because if you put their support stuff close to like your house or whatever, they're going to spend 90% of their time there. They're way lazier than typical ducks, man. They don't forage real heavy unless they run out of food. So, I mean, I don't know you, but yeah, Tactical says dogs. But again, like, can I afford a dedicated dog for 5 ducks?
Well, the thing with the fence, it doesn't have to be an expensive fence. The fence just has to keep the dog in.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to have an expensive dog. If you just get a Pyrenees dog, or preferably something with a little more ass behind it, like an Anatolian or a cross. But I mean, for the first 6 years here, all I had was 2 Pyrenees. We bought them for $50 a piece at a flea market, and we didn't train them. They just did that shit. They protected the things that they grew up with.
Your biggest risk to Muscovies, unless you just have a lot of coyotes and shit like that around, is going to be hawks, though.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, like, it takes extra work to get a dog to recognize and identify a large bird as a problem. And I'm not saying that you can teach a dog to eat a hawk out of the air, but it might have happened here. Maybe. I don't know. But then that dog needs to live outside, right? That dog has to live, or at least, like, if you're doing let them out in the morning, put them away in the evening, then that dog has to be there while those birds are out. He has to be, even if it's more of a pet dog.
So we have guineas. And the guineas, when the guineas are feeding, if you watch them, there's always one with his head up.
Mm-hmm.
And when he goes down, another one's heads come up.
Yep.
When the aerial predators come over, especially a shadow, they go nuts. But when they see them, the guineas alert and the dogs run to where the guineas are. Our dogs have, eagle, hawk, owl.
I'd like to speak as somebody who does not have a perimeter fence because it's hard to fence here.
Yeah.
I am this close to finally having a perimeter fence. It's taken me 15 years.
Yeah.
And if I would have had more money going in, that would have been fixed sooner. But I have free-range poultry the whole time. My most catastrophic losses were when the neighbor's dog got over here.
Yes.
And I was not home, and they killed 40 baby chickens. Well, 38. I found 2 kind of twitching in the yard, and I was able to nurse one of those back to health, and it limped the rest of its life. I don't do that stuff anymore.
So back on
but the bad bird training for my own dogs does it, and a systematic assault of every like raccoon-like predator does it, and letting them out after 9 and putting to bed before dark in a coop that is secure at night, that nothing can get into. That has made it so we rarely lose a bird. I still lose a bird or two a year, and that means that 5 Muscovies probably isn't enough over time.
Yeah,
you're going to have a refill strategy if
the
you
nice
get it
thing
to that
is
point.
if you get them through that first brooding cycle, you'll have plenty because they will make you many of them. So one way we train the dogs on the avian predators here is we use every opportunity to train them. So there's a lot more vultures and buzzards and shit like that here than there, or blue herons will come by and they want to steal fish out of the pond or shit. So we get that dog and we see a large bird. We'll grab the dog's head and we'll point it until we can tell the dog sees it. And then we'll just, oh, he better not, like, dude, oh, you better get him. And that dog starts to get this mindset of any big bird in the sky is bad. Right. And you get a lot more opportunity if you'll use any large bird for that. So like they're sitting out there, Tweety birds are flying around and shit. They don't care. But one of those vultures come over and they lose their shit on them. And it's been beneficial, but as they get older, they're not spending as much time out there anymore. And our new hire, she's a bigger danger to the birds right now than the hawks are. Right. She's not quite there yet. By the way, Malinois, beautiful dogs, wonderful for what they are. Don't recommend them for protecting your livestock, though. I really don't.
Nope.
They're a dog that's made to work with a person. So, like Joel was talking about it when he was here, he's saying Malinois are actually really great dogs for like farmers to use that are dealing with cattle and shit. Because like if a cattle like pushes a farm, like a guy up against a fence or something, a fucking Malinois will come and like fucking hammer that cow like right on the nose, and they're good for that. But when it comes to like the prey drive on, and I would say she's not even prey drive. It's just I want to play with this freaking thing. This thing's
they want to chase. Yeah.
Because it's not, when she's gotten one, it's not like immediate savaging. It's more like, hey, look what I got. And the fucking chicken's like, dude, help me, you know?
Yeah. I think the last time we had a bird of prey here, it was an owl and it was sick. So it was here during the day.
Yeah.
And our dogs just, like, they got it.
Yeah.
They got it. I probably shouldn't admit that on the internet.
Anyway, back to the Muscovies. So Muscovies are dramatically cleaner than regular ducks. They really are. So they would be ideal in a situation like this person's describing to build a good sized coop and run for them and then let them out like after when you get home from work for like a couple hours and train them to go back to their coop when they're told. All ducks go to bed works on all ducks, including Muscovies. So then they're only out there for a couple hours and they're really not going to go that far. So like I have a problem with Muscovies getting whacked here because even though the dogs are good at protecting them and what have you, when they want to lay eggs, it's like they're like, fuck this, I'm not going to put my eggs in the coop because that asshole comes and steals my eggs. So they go find a place to go broody. And if you don't find them, once they sit, they're there for 35 days to hatch. Yep. Something's going to find them before you do. So what I'm going to do next year is my aviary, I'm going to take like my 3 best girls and one of my big drakes, and I'm going to put them in there about the time of year when they want to go broody, and I'll let them brood out so then they can come back into the regular system. Because I lost 8 this year. And I know that's what happened to them. They didn't get taken wandering around. They got taken off a nest at night by a raccoon or something.
And if you shake a feed can, you can totally, unless they're nesting, you can totally put those things away. You can put them, they'll go wherever you want with some scratch and just, shaking
Once
them.
they sit though, John, the Muscovies especially, they will not come off that nest. Yep. And they will be eaten and they'll sit there and let themselves be eaten trying to defend their nest. Their defense mechanism is to shit. Like if you mess with a Muscovy when it's on a nest, it will totally fart shit. And it will gag you. It will gag a maggot. It's that bad. That's all they got though, man. That and
they'll attack you too, and they look scary.
Yeah. Same with the guineas.
They'll sit on you, Nicole.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I still have a scar. I actually need to clip wings again right now.
Josh Gilman, I'm bringing pigeons in here. We're going to use them for homing. We're going to use homing pigeons.
That's how Jen and I are going to communicate when everything falls apart next week. Right.
That's very real. I mean, And there's bigger body pigeons, but they'll fly 3,000 miles. You can put a note or a SD card on those things. And I know guys are like, whatever, but it's real. If you look into it, they're still doing it.
World War I, there's like a lot of colorized footage now of World War I. And I just watched this whole documentary on how they used pigeons. And they would have these big, like a horse drag this freaking cage with all these pigeons, and they'd go out to the lines and they would get the updates, attach it to a pigeon and let it go. And of course it would fly right home. And then that's how they would communicate across distance back then.
And I know anytime we have the hawk and eagle conversation, guys are like, well, I'll just bury that thing or it's on my property. You guys be aware. A lot of those birds all are federally protected, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, a lot of them they're chipped and they have tracking stuff on them. So just be aware of that. I don't care what you do on your property. And I know some states you can protect your livestock from those protected, but be aware of that the people that show up, it's not going to be local law enforcement in the small town that you know. Some of these animals have fucking Facebook pages for them. Like, just know that, right?
Sounds like a recent Yellowstone episode.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen those yet.
Okay.
Good point. But that's all real
I'm waiting
shit.
for the whole season to be done.
Now, the pigeons, too, though, they're not just a good carrier thing. Like, they are a valid feed stock. They're one of our most ancient domesticated birds. A lot of places in, like, desert climates and all, because they're a desert bird, they actually have dove coats built into the houses.
Yep.
And so when you want an egg, you just reach out the window and pull your eggs out. You take squabs right off the nest. And they're pretty productive. My great uncle raised pigeons for pigeon shoots, which we won't get into. Yep. We got to go soon. But, you know, like whole birds, we ate them. Why wouldn't you? Yeah. Right? Like we have birds that didn't make the cut, or, you know, we had pigeon shoots and the ones that got shot, like we didn't throw that away. They're big doves.
Stick around. They're not going to get taken off of a nest typically by predators. And you can trap them legally almost everywhere. There's tons of YouTube channels about it. If you get on any of your local livestock groups and just search pigeon, you will find people close to you that have them available.
So your easiest pigeon trap, you build a box, open box. So like 1 by couple foot by couple foot or bigger. You put chicken wire all around the sides, bottom open, top you take heavy gauge wire and you make a grid. And you make squares that are about 3 inches. You take that box where pigeons live and you put it there with the open side up and you throw food. And you let them feed on it for a couple of weeks. And you keep adding feed. They get very comfortable with the box. You flip it over so the grid's on the top and they sit on the top. They fold their wings and they drop in. They can't get out.
Yep. And,
you know, and the beauty of doing that is it will cost you like $5 to build that. So if somebody runs off and steals it, you're out $5. Because there's like professional pigeon traps and shit that you can buy. They're hundreds of dollars. They don't work any better. In fact, I've never seen anybody make that grid pattern one other than my uncle. I'm sure other people have, but most of them do more like a door with like you have 3 nails hanging down and they push them open and they fall back in. That grid works beautifully because you watch them like once they're really feeding on it, they land, they immediately know what to do. They're like, they don't have to like overcome fear. Pushing through something is a fear thing for an animal. We're folding their wings and going in. They're like, I've been eating on this for a week. This is great. No, dude, you're gone now.
Yep, that's true. Well, I know your time is limited and it's about for us to wrap up. Do we want to go once around the horn here?
Yeah, sure. John, you want to go first?
So I do a live video every night at 9:00. We can talk about whatever you want. I've got a ton of videos on YouTube also. I do a different type of video on Instagram and TikTok almost every morning. Super easy to find. And what pays the bills is we build nylon tactical gear, and then we have all kinds of different content. So join in if you want and see what we're about. We can talk about anything you guys want to talk about.
Well, Jack reminded me in November that I like to ask why. And that means that I do things from scratch. So I have a podcast called Living Free in Tennessee, and a lot of it is about me doing insane things from scratch, learning how to do them, and then building some of them into my life and throwing others away. I also love to roast coffee, so it's the most coffeeiest time of the year. If you're looking for a great consumable Christmas gift, hollerroast.com. And Jack, you get to wrap us up today.
All right, I'm Jack Spirko, host of the survivalpodcast.com. As you can see here and here, I do 5 podcasts a week most weeks when things aren't wrong technically. That will be this week. We'll have 5 podcasts this week, not counting this one. This is all Nicole and John.
Woohoo!
I'm just here as a guest. But today we'll be doing, since it's a Tuesday, we'll be doing a Bitcoin breakout episode, and I'll be running live with that at 12:30. And we're going to be talking about self-custody today. I've got a guest on Wednesday. We're going to be talking about why debt elimination is a survival strategy. And we do all types of stuff. So tune in, check us out at thesurvivalpodcast.com. Or if that's too many letters to type because you're just lazy with typing, tspc.co.
Hey, should guys still buy Bitcoin right now?
Yes.
Yes.
If you put $50 a day into a shoebox, you're going to have $18,000 at the end of the year. That's going to gain nothing. Put it into Bitcoin. Put it wherever you want. If $50 a day, you're going to have $18,000 for all you guys who I can't afford to start a business.
This is what I call the accumulation trough between your halving cycles.
Yeah.
This is the time nobody buys Bitcoin, but everybody should be buying Bitcoin. And the stat to look at right now in Bitcoin is how much Bitcoin has not moved in over 2 years. That number is at an all-time high. That's not about dollar value. That's about quantity of coins. Total whole Bitcoins have been locked up for 2 years or more, longer than any time in the history of Bitcoin during this, bear market, crypto winter, call it what you want. And man, like people like, what about FTX? I hope 5 more go broke. They're fucking scams. I don't give a shit. If it presses down the price for a while, I just get to buy more. All it is stacking sats right now, guys.
All right. And if you want to know more about stacking sats, go to bitcoinbreakout.com.
The Bitcoin Breakout.
TheBitcoinBreakout.com. We'll see you guys next time.